All right, guys. It's Will here, founder of Primabolics Nutrition. Today I've gotten in Billy here, owner and founder of Pinpoint. Mate, you're probably the most famous guy for building absolute weapons here in Newcastle for nigh on 13 years now, which in itself is a monster achievement. I've brought you in today for a podcast because I wanted to pick your brain. We've just obviously sponsored Pinpoint and started working together in a big way. And part of that was really fascinating learning about your background with supplements and how it was playing right through to pro level career, right? Yep. So with your background with supplementation, mate, what was your relationship like with supplements, when you were an athlete and now you're in coaching? How's that changed?
Yeah, firstly, hello, Will. How are you, mate? I've been a coach now for, I think, 19 years. It's all I've ever done. I started the first year before I finished school, was like 2005. Is that 19 years? 2024? Something like that?
Yeah, wow.
And so, as I was saying before, like we're kind of the guinea pigs that tried everything and now we're going to find out whether or not it's damaged us. But from starting out, I went deep into the supplement world. I worked with ASN back in the day when they first opened up in 2002, I think it was, in Beaumont Street, just off Beaumont Street. Had a great relationship with them and just really focused on more about that bodybuilder style where I just hammered the protein, hammered like hectic pre-workouts that would last for 6 months before they got banned, and like post-workouts full of sugar and like all supplements at the time, that's what they were, that's what they had.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether or not my food was on point at the time. And as I started to get better and better with my sports and traveling around a bit, I learned a lot more about eating in regards to getting what I need and cutting back on supplements a bit. Only because all the fillers were I was just getting injuries. And I've just found so much inflammation from a lot of the processed stuff that I had at the time. And, that was just what was on the market. And then when I came back I spent a bit of time in America, and when I came back from the States in maybe 2013 or 14, 2013 when I started Pinpoint, I spent a bit of time with a guy called Dwayne Martins. He owns Amazonia, and so the acai berry and that, and so he owns Amazonia supplements, and he sponsored myself to start out because I loved his natural blends. And that was great, but also very health and wellness, not too elite sports.
Yes.
And which was enough, but still wasn't going to help me recover the way I need to recover.
Yes.
And then I kind of went a few other journeys just trying to find someone that just wanted to promote elite supplements. And there obviously was a brand called Elite Supplements, but they always kind of, no matter what, they kind of fell towards bodybuilders. And because of how much money it costs to get things ticked and verified and has to approved and ASADA and all the drugs involved, and how scary it is for a coach to issue a supplement that might be ASADA not approved, and all of a sudden I'm getting done like Dank was. And so I kind of got to the point where I went, look, I'm not going to promote supplements anymore because I can't find what I believe my athletes need. I can get them the macronutrients they think they need, but in regards to inflammation, everything was inflammatory, everything. And that for me just reeks of injury, reeks of soreness, reeks of heavy load, joints.
Metabolic dysfunction.
And exactly. And just the mental health of the athlete feeling heavy.
Yes.
Or even the females getting bloated. Like it was to the point where I said, you know what, I'm just going to get the food right. And I truly believe if you get the food right, you don't need the supplements. But
100%.
I get to go home and cook lunch. I run a business, I get to cook at work.
Yeah.
Convenience sometimes trumps.
Oh, of course, man.
And so I love the idea of bringing supplements in, but just what the athletes need, and hoping that it doesn't mess with their endocrine system, and just keeping them hormonally balanced and looking after their gut health. So, and that kind of led me, I guess, to where we are now with Primabolics, because, mate, 18 years or 19 years or how many years it's been, that's researching a lot. Like when you're young,
yeah,
you're good, like Animal Stack, like you're looking at what's in Deca Stack, like what is actually in, like you don't know anabolic windows, what's in these things, and you're researching, and the new buzzword comes out or the new branch chain, and I know a lot about it, and just by accident, and I just came to the conclusion that no one's going to ever bring out a supplement that promotes health and wellness and sports.
Yep.
And then you popped your little head up and we are here today.
Yeah, mate, that's a really good, because you said before, like Amazonia, like big brand too, and an awesome to land a sponsorship. Those are, I suppose you're dead right. There's a lot of those brands that are very, it's all natural. So you'll get like the clean aspect of the product, but they're not talking to elite athletes, right? Like it's talking to a very different demographic and people who it's very rare to find where those two intersect. And I don't think any brand's actually done it yet. They'll either go purely that, and you'll see your larger brands who are doing fundamentals only. A creatine's a very basic pre-workout, maybe a protein that's sports safe, and that's just they just stay in that corner. But there's so many demands you guys have got that the average punter doesn't. Like when you, and the cool thing and the challenge has been trying to find how to make something to help the 6-year-old mother of 3 who wants to just walk the dog in the morning, make something for her that can help with hormones or help with gut or help with general health, but then also have things within a range that can help you guys who are like absolutely killing each other in the gym every day. And like you guys have got a different need, and inflammation's a big one that you guys have to deal with, like the oxidative stress on the body and the sheer workload you guys are going through. That's a huge part of it. So that begs the question when we talk about injuries and recovery. What was some of the supplementation you used early on around that to help, I suppose, combat it? Because inflammation and recovery are two of the biggest, like, sort of pitfalls I see anyway, outside looking in. But you're in it, man. So what do what's that look like?
Initially for me, I did a lot of research, as I was saying, when I was over in the States with a bloke over there on sugar and insulin and how we can manipulate that to get things locked away in the systems faster. And that was when I discovered some cool supplements locally here that gave you that spike, but unfortunately created so much inflammation because they were using sucrose instead of just some other natural spikers or fruit, which you can't really throw in anyway. But we're getting addicted to sugar and then creating inflammation. And I was like, well, this is really the only real recovery method we have in regards to quick fix post-training. It's not helping with oxidative stress at all. It's enhancing it, even though we're trying to minimise it. And then I looked at, it's kind of zinc magnesium was only the real thing we'd have at sleep time. And I think ashwagandha was something which I'll still incorporate for my guys. But that was the main focus. It was still, sleep was still talked about, and it's number one supplement, I believe.
Yes.
But it was not quite yet promoted like it was back then. So in regards to recovery, the basics that my athletes will learn about is your zincs, your magnesiums, your ashwagandha for sleep, and then trying to find a fast absorbing, protein. But a lot of my guys, when they have anything animal based, will get inflammation, or a lot of my guys might be vegan as well and they don't want to go any whey proteins. Yep. It's been a difficult dance around all of the recovery systems to the point where I had a blender in the gym and a freezer. And in the freezer were these little sappy bags, like sandwich bags full of fruits, like high sugar promoting fruits.
Wow.
We'd have some oats in there. We blend up quick because we don't have too much fibre post-workout to slow it down. And they just literally pull a sappy out, pour it in, put their protein in and blend it. And that was their post-workout with a bit of honey. We had like a honey dispenser. And that was great.
That's awesome.
But illegal because of health and safety. So that kind of died off pretty quick.
But what a cool thing, man. No, I don't think I've ever actually heard of someone doing that with the gym for the reason you probably just mentioned after that. But
well, it was ugly. We were sitting in the office chopping up like bits of banana and mango and fingers all over it. And we actually had a mate of ours who took it. He used to own a restaurant in town called Restaurant Mason. He's a great chef. So he had a catering company. They'd do it for us. And it worked out great.
That's awesome,
like
mate.
It was $5 a shake, but it was just, I learned it from a guy, Cole's his last name. He plays for the All Blacks. He's an absolute weapon. And just post-workout, he'd go home and it's like pineapple, mango, kiwi fruit, bit of protein, banana even, blend it up. And it was just, better than anyone. That's the ultimate recovery shake.
It is, mate. It is. And you touched on it before. We have the luxury of owning businesses and be able to shape a life around this lifestyle, right? A lot of you guys are tradies. A lot of you guys have got they got physical jobs outside of this. Time. Everyone is so time poor. Like in a perfect world, if you can eliminate all your environmental burden, like pull out, eliminate all your chemicals, eat only clean stuff with no fillers, and have things that are naturally sweetened only and dairy free. Look at meal prep every single meal and have it at home. Awesome. Like you'll never need to touch one of these things. And that would be my ideal case for everyone, right? But I kept seeing people were increasingly time poor. They were over caffeinated. They were under eating. They were always, and people are just going frantically. It's just text, call, email, work, job, training, family, get home, cook, rush, cook something out of a packet, smack it down. Food is an afterthought when it should be like the foundational piece, right? So I was like, fuck, how do I help get any form of health into people in a standardizable format that I can do on scale? Because I'm like, this is an actual issue, and I get it. I look at the sort of public health data now, and you start seeing like the percentage of people that are overweight and obese now versus what it was 10 years ago. It's like 67% now. Here in the US, 70% of people in adult age are overweight or obese. Mm-hmm. You look at things like insulin resistance. In the US this year, they've written 100 million metformin prescriptions. A third of the entire country are using anti-diabetic drugs to help blood sugar control and insulin resistance, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's stressed, inflamed, over-caffeinated, under-eating.
Which means the hormones are all messed up too.
It means that the hormones are cooked as well. So then we've got guys with low testosterone and they're struggling with mood, recovery, anxiety, depression. They're struggling with any form of body composition at all because they're all estrogenic and holding body fat and holding fluid. You see women who are heavily dysregulated too, and they're either estrogen dominant, they're either having crippling PMS symptoms or wildly irregular periods and again, impacting performance. So you have this picture like public health is trash, food's trash, people are prioritizing everything but food, but it should be the foundational piece. So I put a lot of thought. I'm like going, how can I try and give something to plug into that picture that can help try and reverse engineer it a bit, But you in a coaching place, mate, when you're working with people first, is it almost like how do you tackle it? Because everyone's so different. Do you have to do like a screening phase, or what do you?
It's obviously it comes down to the fact that you have to I'm dealing with 216 athletes a day.
Wow.
And I have a relationship with them like they're a partner. Like you have to, a lot of these people, like they would say 60% of our athletes are either playing at a top level sport or trying to get there. And one of the things that I find, just a little bit off topic in regards to you setting up those systems supplement-wise to help aid, even if they could get it with food, because of what else is going on in their lives, answering emails, setting up this, and your training session here, the cognitive fatigue of an athlete is something that needs to be heavily monitored and nurtured. The best athletes in the world have a to-do list every day, and it's almost identical because that way they can keep themselves from mental burnout because systems stay the same. You let footy training be the difference. It needs as much rhythm as possible. So to supplement it not only aids our guys in going, well, shit, I've also got to prep meals and what can I eat? That fatigue to go, nah, I got this covered, and allows them to then slip into a bit of rhythm, minimize the burnout. And for me, that's a massive key, cognitive fatigue in regards to what you do. But in regards to checking in with what people have, I mean, Will, you know better than I do, everyone these days has something. And the industry loves labeling shit. I've got so many girls have endometriosis, so many girls these days, you get PCOS, PMDD is a big one coming up at the moment, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is based on the hormonal imbalances. I've got guys on metformin. I've got guys doing blood tests that are just so much estrogen. I've got girls with too much testosterone, which is messing them up. It's the environment we live in now and the foods that we're promoting are so filled with shit that it is just hammering our hormonal system.
Man, I've got to. This will be something that I address in like near future brand wise, because the environmental burden piece, mate, is scary. When you look at like what's in our tap water, and again, like 85% of the female population is on contraceptives.
You know how much estrogen's in there because of that?
Bingo, mate.
They piss it out. Where's it go? It goes into your bowl.
Bingo.
And you can't filter it at the water station. We are consuming estrogen.
Yes. And it's a baffling thing. If nothing else, I want to zoom in on that because, like, apart from just what you're physically drinking has all of the environmental burden in it as well. And then you look at like plastics, right? And we're looking at like BPAs, and we're looking at xenoestrogens and phytoestrogen. There are sources of estrogen mimetics in our environment as well. And on top of that, the stress and inflammation and the undereating part. So I've had guys cooked, right? Like dudes that are in their 20s they'll have like a free test of 8.
Well, you saw mine, right?
Yeah, yours, man, and talk on that because you're like someone who's been an athlete your whole life can still be in a place where you can see firsthand how someone who's at single digit body fat who's a weapon can end up in a place where your hormones get trashed purely due to environmental changes and stresses, man. So like yours, 100%. Like your panel, if you talk about that, mate, that was like terrifying.
You saw the bloods and people don't believe me. And I'm like, look, you are my witness. I showed them to you. I had my father pass away and we were very close. And so I spent, look, I can drink. I could drink. I quit drinking, but I could drink, right? So I sat at the pub for 6 weeks straight. And I'm talking, as soon as it opened till the moment it closed, I'm punching 60 schooners. I just went to town. And sure, probably some coping mechanism. Also just a moment in my life where I was like, what do I really get up for? You know what I mean? It was just a really dark time in my life. This is only 2 or 3 years ago. What I didn't recognise was the damage I was doing to my liver. And then I learned about the process of the liver cleaning out the cholesterol not being cleaned out because the liver's cactus, that causing my estrogen, my cortisol to shoot through the roof because I couldn't process it. That causing my estrogen to skyrocket and my testosterone to just plummet. So I had a mate of mine and he was like, look, mate, I trained for 3 months straight, and I'm talking trained. Like I'm up at 6 a.m, an hour conditioning, 4 p.m, an hour of weights and conditioning again for 3 months straight. And I was 129 kilos. I'm 106 right now. So I'm trying to run out next year as a first grade winger at 129 kilos looking like a flying hamburger. It was horrendous. So 3 months in, I didn't drop a kilo. And I was like, what is going on? So I went and saw my naturopath, Kylie Armstrong from Tonic. She's a weapon. And she just said, you gotta get some hormone tests. So I went and saw my doctor. They're very reluctant to give you the tests and talk you through them. So I went and saw a third party and came back. The reading for me with this testosterone, I've discovered there's a few different levels and a few different scales.
Yes, yeah.
This scale was 750 to 0, but 250. So 750 on your testosterone. I'm not sure whether it was free or you might be able to tell me. Yeah. Total. 750 is when you're 18. You know, you're keen, you're out there, your skin's pimply, you want to lift, you want to go for it, right? Yeah. We won't go too far into where we would go with that testosterone. But then 250 is when you're 60 years old. You still got some, you still try to do your best, but you're getting old. It's leaching. I was 127, which is less testosterone than my 11-year-old daughter. Wow. And I'm trying to get out of that. And I'm like, you can go nowhere.
No.
And I have trained for 20 years. I know all the tricks and I was going nowhere. And then I discovered what was wrong. So I quit drinking. I increased the hell out of my cruciferous greens. Like there was a lot of stuff I had to do to get my hormones right. That took me 3 months, which if you look into gut bacteria, it kind of takes you 3 months to start to change what's in there. 3 months. And then the next month, I lost 27 kilos in a month with the same training regime. Hectic.
But that's got to be one of the best
experience of my life.
And 3 months, man, and this is with someone who's been coaching for nearly 2 decades, right? And knows how to train. And the average Gen Pop has don't have the luxury of someone training themselves for 20 years,
and every single trick I've ever learned, I had to bring in.
Man, for a 20 plus kilo transformation in a month. Man. So when for people at home who are watching this one, when you what Bill just said is fucking perfect. When you're talking about hormones being imbalanced, there is not a chance on the planet you can get your body into a place of whether not even just talking body composition because that's superficial. Talking about actual health and function. When testosterone's low, estrogen's high. So anxiety's up, depression's up.
You don't want to train.
You don't want to train, so you're not going to want to get into the gym floor. When you are there, you're recovering poorly because that testosterone is going to help rebuild that muscle tissue. It's going to help with muscle protein synthesis. Then flowing on effect from that as well, the estrogen is going to make you store preferentially body fat and visceral fat too,
triceps,
and fluid,
back of the legs, hips, everywhere you don't want it.
Super. And I'm seeing in guys a lot now as well because we've got those environmental estrogenic factors too in men also, and then we see the stress lowering testosterone, and you see testosterone in the last 40 years has lowered 40%, which is. When you look at it, it's only meant to decline.
Which is what they want, Will.
Yeah, and that's going to be a whole new podcast. But that is a big thing. And when we see testosterone declining at such an alarming rate, right? At like the more that it ever has in developed history, we're seeing testosterone plummet, and we get guys who are and we see massive increases in anxiety with men and depression with men with all these. And again, in the performance sphere, it's going to trash it. You can't even a coach of 20 years can't improve their body composition.
And I almost. I went because I have a psychologist regularly, which is the best thing in my life. And I sat there and my psychologist said, your mindset is too much for your body. So they're like, we don't know how you're getting out of bed with these scores. And I'm like, well, shit's got to be done because the only way out of that dark place for me is to get myself right. It's the only way. It's the only way I know. And it's the way it's worked for me for 2 decades. But because I had to put so much effort into getting out of bed because those hormones said, fuck this. Stay in bed. Nothing's happening. Life's tough. Life's tough on you. You know, it's as you know, when your estrogen's through the roof, you're emotional.
Yeah.
You're emotional. And it's women will tell you it's a shit time of the month when they're tired and emotional and you can't control it. It's chemical.
Yeah.
So for me, I was there and I pushed through it. But because of the amount of effort I had to put in to that I was just busted. And even when I got to that result, I had to have a month off because I'd burnt out. I got over coaching. I'd burnt out so much.
God, yeah, because you're trying to fight against the body, which you can't beat it because it's too smart, right? There are too many adaptive mechanisms. There's too many feedback loops.
Yep.
You push on one thing, it's going to naturally counteract you. But what's amazing is once things start working with it, though, when you get the body fat down, the inflammation down, the estrogen down, things just start going with you. Start dropping weight almost by accident.
Exactly. And I got to the point where I started to stop because I was like, I'm getting like, despite the way I look, I don't like looking like a bodybuilder.
Yep.
And so when I get too ripped or whatever, I start to get a little bit self-conscious about the way I look. And I got to the point where I was like, I need to take a session out of training. I remember having a conversation with you because remember I was under eating as well.
Yeah, it's massively
so
under eating.
I was like 1,500 calories a day because I looked at that whole deficit shit.
You should have been dead. Actually 1,500 at your TDE.
And I remember because I think 2,900 is what I'm supposed to have per day. And you said it perfectly when you said, don't just make it about the day, make it about the week. And I was like, cool. So my total calories per week. And I remember throwing in 2 extra meals, and I was a very overweight kid. So putting in, like I eat a Subway like a harmonica. I'm trying to avoid the bread. And so for me, that was really scary.
Yep.
But it worked.
Yes.
It worked.
I saw a piece of content with you talking about how you were increasing food and you were dropping body fat.
Couldn't believe it.
It's the most phenomenal thing, man, because I think, ironically, a lot of people come to the supplement world, they come into a supplement store.
19 years it took me to figure that out.
19, yeah, wow. It was because it amazes me, man, because I obviously I haven't worked with athletes to the extent that you have, right? So I've worked with helping a lot of everyday people improve health, and I'll get people who come to us properly broken. But most people come to a supplement store as almost like a last resort. They're going, look, I'm just pulling my hair out. I haven't been able to lose weight now. It's been, I've been trying for 6 months or 12 months of yo-yo dieting. I'll do keto and fasting and all the BS under the sun, right? And they come in, they go, I just can't budge weight. And usually it's one of those things you mentioned. It'll be, it can be an estrogen issue. It can be a thyroid issue. It can be any of those things. But undereating is the bedrock, right? Stress and undereating. And more people that I cross paths with undereat than overeat by far. Like almost no one eats their... And when you look at, I suppose, in sports, I started working with some combat guys as well. And in combat sports, a lot of fighters undereat drastically too.
They're scared about their muscle to put on for
Bingo,
making
man.
weight.
Making
That's one of the
weight,
hardest
right?
industries to eat for.
It's nearly impossible because you're trying to like meet that stringent like
You almost
welterweight
have to be identical to your resting metabolic rate. It's
brutal.
They're on another level.
It's incredible, man. So when you saw like increasing those calories, because going back to like where stuff comes in, like I similar to you, been around a while, did like 9 years now for Primabolics, and I built the brand in reverse almost. So I did compared to most sub companies, they do a pre-workout first and go for gold, right? I built the brand on sleep aids, things for estrogen, testosterone boosters, greens first, and then I've done pre-workouts in the 9th year of it. Yeah, after doing 8 years of hammering this stuff, because this is what everyone should be. And I get sad that people think of our industry only as pre's and protein powders,
Well, I'm
the
in
shit
the
that
personal
matters.
training industry, so don't worry about images when it comes to what people think about you. You can change that, Will. It's all good.
You can.
I'm still working on it.
We're working on the industry, man. I'm trying to get the industry a better bit of PR, I suppose, to try and go, look, the things that'll actually make a difference to you is not what you think. What you want and what you need are almost opposites. The person comes in going, I want more energy, needs to look at sleep and stress and hormones, right?
And stop touching caffeine.
Bingo, man.
And
it's the hardest thing to kick, right? But so like with you now, man, you're running at your days are messed up. We were chatting only last week about you're up at 4, coaching through to the day, get home, sleep for a small window, go back, coach, sleep for a small window, start again.
Yep.
How the hell what do supplements for you look like these days? Like what are you doing to get through your bullshit days? Because they're huge.
So what's cool is, Will, you know me, I'm not going to sit here and try and sell shit for you.
No, don't want you to.
So I'll always tell it straight. And in all honesty, I think my day starts, I get up at 3:30, I get to work at 4, I'll coach from 5 till midday. This is actually my nap time, so I might look a bit tired.
Appreciate it.
Then I'll have a nap from, usually I'll eat lunch at 12 to 1, 1 to 2 I'll have a nap, back to work at 2:30, I'll coach from 3 to 8, come home, put the kids to bed, and I'll probably go to bed at 11 and up at 3:30. So these are unhealthy times to sleep. I did a lot of research in sleep, and there's a really cool study done in Harvard with 1 million participants that discovered 6.5 hours is a perfect window. So I was like, cool, I'll try and work off that. And I was just, as a coach, I lose my voice all the time. And it's because I just get really, really invested in seeing someone achieve something they haven't achieved before, or someone putting in effort. No matter how hard I try, I just can't help it. I just get involved, and that energy, it comes out. And so I get home, and I come home from a nightclub. I got to try and wind down, and it's difficult. And then, but I discovered through, I think it was East Coast, and I grabbed your I just call it sleep aid.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's called.
everyday sleep. Yeah.
Mate, and I had that, and it's like, I don't know if it's supposed to slow you down and put you to sleep.
Meant to, yes.
Mate, it's like a Xanny. Like, it's awesome. And I know it's all natural product in it, but the one thing I loved about it was when I was going deep, as soon as I'd fall asleep for my 4 hours, if I was at best 5 or 6 if I'm laughing, I was going deep. I was going real deep. And I'd wake up and I felt like I'd had my 8 hours. And that for me was kind of the turning point to go, you know what? I don't have supplements much anymore because of the way I'm built, and I'm pretty good with my food.
100%.
But for me, I went, actually, I'm going to look at supplementation solely for my hormones, because I know if I get sleep and I get to that REM sleep, I'm going to release human growth hormone. I'm going to allow my liver and organs to recover overnight.
Yep.
And I'm also going to wake up with a better level of testosterone, because sleep is the murderer of testosterone.
Yes,
if you don't get it.
Mate, there was a really cracker Navy SEAL study where they had, and this is the weirder part, so 6.5 hours, right, cool. Sleep is something that I've spent a body of work on trying to educate people on the importance of it, because people think less is more, I suppose, and people are trying to do the whole, sleep when you're dead piece. But it's like, if you don't sleep, you will die.
You'll be dead.
You would be dead.
What does shift workers live 10 years on average in their life?
Yes, and something like 24% of Australia's population are shift workers, right? So a quarter of our population are engaged in something that actively trims you. Anyway, that's a separate podcast. But what I found really wild about it was, I suppose, like they put a group of Navy SEALs through sleep deprivation, but their sleep deprivation was just 5 hours a night. And you'd think in a sleep deprivation in a military study, it would be they just prod you all night. You're not getting to sleep tonight, mate. You're up for the. No, 5 hours still. In 2 weeks, they tanked their testosterone levels so severely, it was the biological equivalent of aging 10 years. And after that, they went through a recovery protocol, put them back into 8 hours sleep mandatory. It still took 8 weeks to get to baseline again.
Yeah.
Took 2 months to dig out of 2 weeks of 5 hours a night. And the average person who's heavily caffeinated, who's running on just pure cortisol and adrenaline, gets home, still kids are there, cooking dinner, a million miles an hour, go, sit down finally, your mind just won't switch off and you're racing. You're just drowning in a bath of cortisol all day. When you can finally put the handbrake in at the end of a big day and feel what it feels like to actually take that edge off, because unfortunately outside of the supplement space, most people supplement with alcohol to do that. A lot of time.
And 6 standard drinks, it makes your hormones out of balance for 3 weeks anyway.
Cooks it.
So for us, it's like, look, and that's what's another thing trying to explain to my guys. If you want any results in any of this, no matter what age you are, if there's alcohol involved, it's just not happening. It's just not happening. And I'm talking to guys in the NRL that are like, it's all about moderation. I get it, bro. But you got 10 years of your career. And every year, if you improve, you get another 100,000 maybe. And you're worried about going away and drinking on the weekends and victories. I understand the culture of it. Yep. When I was in the States, as soon as season's over, you're at some camp, speed camp, throwing camp, tackling camp, fitness camp, whatever. And then you're back again. And you do it for a decade. And then when you retire, then you can go hang out at the pub and be a fat fuck. So it's horses for courses on that one. But I found out, I think it was Joe Rogan podcast, they did a study on 6 standard drinks will displace your hormones for 3 weeks. Think about almost every person in Australia who drinks.
Yep.
Oh, I'll just go to once a month. Oh, cool. So every month your hormones are stuffed because you drink and you got 3 weeks to recover, and then you recover and you drink again.
Yeah, alcohol is the biggest, man. It's like trying to, I suppose, you're trying to, like the analogy of like when you've pouring water into a cup and trying to balance something that's overflowing, turn the tap off. Stop. If you're trying to balance a hormone, alcohol is the most estrogenic thing, but that would be a hard conversation in the footy world.
And then that's the only reason that I had to quit, because I was a lunatic, and everyone knows that I can go for 4 or 5 days is what it is. So for me, I've just got this ADHD hyper-focus thing that'll mean that I'll be the last man standing at any event. You know, I mean, whether it's training or whether it's at a party. So for me, the only solution was I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop.
Lead by example, eh?
And it's tough. I did 9 months the year that I lost all the weight, and that was kind of cool. And then my training partner, who's an absolute legend, gave it up 3 years ago. So he's just full cold turkey. My other best mates, like we got guys that are our age that are all going to AA, and they're all open about it. And it's awesome because and the alcohol industry is actually dropping now. The marijuana industry is raising itself up, and you can talk to people around here about the sales of alcohol. We're cluing onto it. We're cluing onto what it's doing to us, and we're cluing on to, one, the price of it, both inside your family and on your health, and two, just it does not promote any positive change inside your body.
None. Not a single
whatsoever.
thing. It's a poison.
And I know that helps me control my ADHD when I have beers, but then the next day, the hangover effects or the anxiety involved amplify them. So there's a lot of coping mechanisms that are great for the short term, but yeah, until I cut alcohol out of my life, I don't expect any change with my results.
Man, it was a massive one with because same thing. I was an environmental scientist in mining before this, and mining is exactly the same as footy, right? People would be cracking long necks on the drive home from night shift, like literally they'd be going, "Oh, I need to carpool today, mate, because I want to go like pull in the bottle shop on the drive home." And it's 6 in the morning. They've just finished the shift and they're drinking in the morning, having beer for breakfast before they go to bed.
The problem is that excites me, Will. That excites me. The idea of doing something completely naughty. It excites me, and this is the problem that you have when you get, especially when you got footy players, they're running straight into brick walls, and you're going to tell them, no, calm it down. It's like they're warriors. They're going to war. They're doing stuff that not many people want to do, and you tell them they can't have a beer, they can't celebrate after the act of war. Like it's hard. Yeah, it's very difficult. But the bottom line is this: there's guys out there who are the best in the world who drink every weekend when they play. They'd be better if they didn't.
Yes.
And that's the argument. And I know I can hear 15 of my athletes right now going, cough. Like, you don't get it, mate. Like, we need to also look after our mental health and camaraderie around the boys. I say bullshit. I just say bullshit. The bottom line is this: if you want to be the best and you want your contract to read 600 grand and not 300, quit drinking. And then you won't be in the papers for getting caught with a bag. Yeah. You'll be sweet. And
massive one for athletes. No, massive one there, man, because I think in that world where you're talking about people who actually do this professionally, right, and that was where I think when I made the Pro Series, I finally knuckled down and had a look behind, try to look under the hood at what you guys want, right, and what the difference is between Joe Blogg or the average, weekend warrior, the average gym bro, what they want is like an entirely different animal, right? And even like I suppose the whole safer sports thing is a separate part. Like Hasta in itself is its own part, but more so like the relationship of supplementation, where it plugs in, and how I suppose that culture is a big one. And I could imagine having those conversations would be super hard, man, because it's a big cultural piece, right?
And it's also the language. Like, you got your little juice head bodybuilders, or you got your normal bodybuilders, or whatever you want to call them, and they're obsessed with big fancy words. They want to know all the words on the ingredient list. They want to talk about it. Yep. It's the way they stay secure in conversations. They'll use the big fancy ones. My footy boys, they just want to be explained in simple terms what this is going to do and why. Sweet, thank you. So it's even harder for you trying to develop a supplement for sporting athletes and sell it to them. Because quite frankly, they don't really want to listen to much. They're like, does it work? Sweet. If my coach gave it to me, I'll take it. You're not the coach, so how are they going to take it? There's a lot of variables that you've got to deal with crossing codes from the weightlifting world to, well, I won't say athletes because I'll offend a few people, but to the sporting world.
It is. It is harder to see if you truly master a topic, you should be able to explain it to a child. Yep. It was always the one, and I love seeing on the socials with you guys. You've had a gift at like passing complex topics on. I speak gorilla to gorillas. Like I can't sit there and speak science. Some people I can. And I think it's the Russians that have different shades of grey when they're in the Air Force. So immediately, whatever shade they say, the person on the other line will tell their shade, they'll meet halfway. So it allows comms to be quicker, comms to be faster, comms to be more succinct. So for us, I've got my uncle, he's the head scientist, microbiologist at Sanitarium. Wow. So for me, whenever I have food and nutrition information, because let's face it, industry dominates it. And I still don't even believe in the nutrition courses at university because they're sponsored by Big Pharma and all the rest. I'm a big believer in finding my own journey on food. I don't like for example, dairy. I don't believe is any beneficial once you're past the age of being a child. And so for me, every time I'd get hounded on food or someone would come at me with what they think is in this food, I'd send it away to my uncle. He'd just test it. He'd come back and he'd give me the real big science version. He'd dumb it down enough for me to understand. And that was my job to get it and go, okay, how can I make this from scientist to simple? It's awesome you do it with food too, man, because I think that's a massive, like when you look at supplementation, right? When you're trying to introduce a supplement, even pick something like as simple and harmless as vitamin C, right? Vitamin C, the most common form you'll see used because it's easy to standardize and measure for, is ascorbic acid.
Is that something about you can't absorb it?
And even absorption, even if you can absorb it, then you look at like the bioavailability when it's in nature, right? So in something like an orange, for example, where
Because the
you've
enzymes carry it, right?
bingo, enzymes, and then you've got like other like, bioflavonoids in there, like naringin, hesperidin, you got all these like citrus bioflavonoids. Everything that was designed to help carry that nutrient in
is now removed.
Yeah, is now.
I always say it's like Justin Bieber trying to get to the stage with those security guards. It's plain and simple. It's not happening. Like you've got to make sure that it comes with the security guards, and that's why all these. Well, they had the gummies, like the multivitamin gummies. I'm sitting there going, well, just get it from the fruit.
Yes,
because it needs to be transported with the guards that are in the fruit.
Man,
but you can't systemize an orange.
You have a multivitamin and it's you've got fluorescent yellow urine for like 2 hours afterwards.
Because that's pissing out all the good stuff.
Bingo, right? Water soluble vitamin, way it goes. Man, the biggest thing I found, as soon as I added greens, like powdered greens with synthetic vitamins, and people stopped having that issue, right? Because they were no longer flushing.
Why is it when I have which I don't know the name of, because I just know it's that green shit that's good for me.
Yeah.
Why is it I don't piss yellow?
Yeah, man. So this is exactly this conversation, because I like you show people how to do it with food. When I first started using like the synthetic nutrients, that's great. A lot of them are bioavailable, but when you combine them with the naturally occurring, so if you've got like your greens, so to speak, in there, but if you also have your standardized forms of like magnesiums and B vitamins, zincs and so on, if I gave you, it's really funny because I have, when I was making that thing, I had the synthetic vitamin sweet by itself. You just have that as a bolus and just pop it, and it would be fluoro yellow, because it's a massive dose of water-soluble vitamins. Your body breaks it down through phase 1 detox, liberates it, right? So you'll flush that. Whatever you don't absorb, you'll flush. And that's why you'll see that, but especially with the B vitamins being quite yellow in colour. But when I started combining it with the naturally occurring forms, like your spirulinas, caleras, barley grass, wheatgrasses, put them together, all of a sudden that stopped. And I was like, why is this happening? Why am I seeing this? And then you look into the things that would naturally occur in nature, help shuttle each thing in. So you don't do vitamin C in an orange isn't just a massive dose of vitamin C by itself. It's got all the bioflavonoids and polyphenols and things to carry it. And so same with that, man. When I started combining these synthetics with the naturally occurring forms, they started shuttling way, way better. And it was something as simple as just combining both and trying to put both together. And it meant that people were all of a sudden going, oh, I'm using a multi, but I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling good. Yeah. I actually feel good. I'm like what the and not having that experience. They're like, why do I even have a Barocca and it's the next 2 hours is fluoro and then this is different. And it's triple the vitamin content of most things in a multi. It like a lot of the doses I use are more for athletes. They're not really, they're who are chronically stressed or for who are really jacked up, like really cooked nervous systems, like heaps of B12, heaps of magnesium, heavy dose of vitamin D, iodine, selenium, a lot of like metabolic specific stuff, but they're big doses. Like it's down. I try to get as close to the RDI as I can because people just aren't eating this stuff yet. Yeah. But so the absorption on that should just flush. But it's when you combine it and then you throw in stuff like some herbs that'll help absorb it and stuff. But it's mainly that it's crazy, man. So the food, I like that at a club level. I'm seeing a lot of your content coming out talking about quite like where I might talk to my audience going about gut health and going, here's gentianas or digestive enzymes or probiotics, but then you're going resistant starches in bananas, and so it's cool to see the approach because it's really synergistic when you can throw in what's naturally occurring. I just wish more people would actually be able to take the time to put that in their day, and they could do that.
Well, unfortunately, Fibre is not promoted because Fibre, as you might have discovered, Fibre is the number one key to Pinpoint's nutrition plan. So we've got a system that I invented like maybe 8 or 9 years ago called White Pack Bags, which is like talks about water, hydration, protein, antioxidants, carbohydrates, blubber being fats, and then alcohol and alkaline, and then carbohydrates. And the last one is S for substance, which is fibre. And fibre is the key to all success in our diet. And recommended daily intake, I think, is 15 to 20 grams in Australia. Dog shit. I'm talking 50 to 100. And if you look into the science of like the hundreds of people, I think they live in the Alps, that menstruate to like 80 because they've got 90 plus grams of fibre in their diet daily. And what that does to the healing, what that does to your intestines, the villi, the absorption of nutrients, the carrying of nutrients, like the slowing down, the gastric emptying, it's even colorectal cancer identification. All this is huge. They don't suffer from the diseases of metabolic syndromes and like the disease of the affluent. Like they don't get certain like diabetes and certain cancers over there. They don't exist because of levels of fibre involved. But fibre doesn't sell because it doesn't last long on the shelf. So if you give me fibre from the farmer's market, just say a stick of broccolini. How many days before it goes limp? 3, 4?
Yeah.
Now they're researching and they're taking fibre out of broccolini. That's why the Coles broccolini or Woolworths, don't assume anyone. That's why the whatever grocery store,
the politically correct
whatever,
broccolini.
You know what I'm saying? The broccolini you might buy from not the farmer's market,
from generic grocer.
It stays rock hard for like 2 weeks. They're systematically taking the fibre out because it lasts longer. If you're selling T-shirts at a store and I said this shirt will last 4 days and that's a cost of the business, or this one lasts 6 weeks, you're not worried about people's health. You're worried about selling shirts. So the drama is that fibre is the key and the answer. I've had a girl who had rheumatoid arthritis and she went back 6 medications. We had 3 girls who got rid of endometriosis, which is incurable because of increasing fibre. I don't disrespect anyone by saying that, but these are things that happen by increasing fibre from about 6 or 7 grams a day to 50. And at 5 grams a week increments, because girls can bloat and guys can smell. So it's, but for us, that's been the biggest discovery, that the industry doesn't want you to know about fibre because it's not saleable. And you get your Metamucil, which is ground up fibre, which makes it basically like when you freeze fruit, it masticates the fibre levels, and you can't actually. Fibre is just something that can't be absorbed in the guts, and it goes through the intestine. The smaller it is, the least amount of time it survives in the intestine. So just like a big tarp of a red kidney bean opening up, that's going to last longer in your intestine as the bacteria attack it than if you were to blend it. So for me, it was really cool to understand that I had 1 can of beans to every one of my athletes' diets, and their levels of conditioning, their ability to survive conditioning workouts, their strength, their recovery went through the roof.
Wow.
1 can.
That'd be like 15, 20 grams of fibre or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's 16 grams per serve in this can. Yeah. It was huge. And we follow a fibre 5 rule where it's like the carbohydrates divided by the fibre. If it equals 5 or less, perfect.
Yeah, gotcha.
If it's 5, if it's over 5, if you can't grab with one hand, put it back. So beans were maybe 16 grams of fibre. Don't quote me on this. Might have been 20 or 30 grams of carbohydrate. It's basically a score of 2. Grab it. Huh. If it was white bread, which is maybe 19 grams of carb and 2 grams of fibre, you're looking at 8. Put it back. And that's the system we follow. But if you want to have rice, which is 27 grams of carb in a cup and 3 grams of fibre, it still doesn't follow the laws, but do what they do over in Mexico and throw the black beans in and make it work on the fibre 5. And that is how we've created athletes that look the way they look but lift the way they lift. Because you cut that out and you look good, you lift shit.
It's a massive one, man, because, I mean, even talking about like the endometriosis part and like for any of our female listeners, right? Like I was interviewing a naturopath last week and she was talking about just on that endometriosis and even just estrogen clearance at all. And people don't realise that the critical role the gut plays in. And once you've detoxified that hormone, even if your body's trying to do the heavy lifting of breaking down hormone, detoxifying it through the liver, spitting it out, it sits in the gut, if you haven't got efficient elimination, it can sit there and pull and even be reliberated back into the body, right? You can get beta-glucuronidase enzymes can grab it and go and spit it back into the system. And then, even if you've done all the heavy lifting, driven all of that pathway, if that gut isn't functioning and clearance is inadequate, then that thing you can reliberate that hormone, put that back into the system, and you can accumulate these issues. And with endo, that gets crippling. But with anyone trying to do hormonal balancing campaigns, gut functions. It's a massive sort of area of interest because trying to make a gut supplement that was like a one-size-fit-all, like in the greens trying to do an element of gut health in the greens that would cover as many people was really tricky because you got to look at like what is good for some. Like you said, a lot of people
different gut bacteria. There's different like FODMAPs, different food reactions.
Oh, it was hectic, man. That took forever trying to figure out what will help, what will not cause bloating and issues. And even play with stomach acid and stuff was hectic. So it's really cool to see that you're addressing that nutritionally with people and having experiences like that because you're right, we drastically undereat fibre. Then also what that translates to, I can see why some of those links you're talking about with the recovery and then with inflammation with the arthritis person there as well. If we can enhance clearance, improve the microbiome and the species that are there that are more beneficial, help metabolic function alongside that.
As we talked about chickpeas the other day, lowers your sugar spike for 6 hours. 6 hours.
Fuck.
So the fibre in chickpeas allows your body's levels of sugar to be controlled enough to keep insulin at bay for 6 hours. So if you're having a bowl of pasta that might be, 800 calories if you calorie count, which I don't.
Yeah.
But you're probably looking at 90 minutes to absorb that if it's a white-based flour. You throw chickpeas in that pasta and that 800 calories gets spread over 4 to 6 hours. And if you look at your resting metabolic rate, say I burn about 200 calories an hour sitting here talking to you, 6 hours, that's 1,200. My bowl of pasta was 800. It's gone. But if I have it 800 without the chickpeas, I got an hour and a half. I'm only doing 200, so that's 300 calories. Where's the 500 getting stored? So even when it comes down to just controlling your body fat and your cortisol, because the nutrients, once your body's out of nutrients, its cortisol starts to rise again. That's why we constantly eat. But even just throwing in that and mitigating the sugar levels and expressing per calorie per meal longer distances, people were losing weight because it was just your metabolic rate was eating it.
And your nutrient partitioning is actually working. Your blood sugar
Exactly.
regulation is
And
actually
my metabolism is slowing. No, you're just eating super fast, like high GI foods.
Man, I get asked this all the time with people when they say, "Oh, I've hit my 30s now, my metabolism's slowing down." Right?
Please.
The biggest, I know, right? That face is what I try and, but
you're selling a product, so you got to be nice.
You got to be nice. Yep. But more so try and also explain to them, like, it's sad though because it's almost like you see, and then also it brings the mindset of I'm giving up on this, right?
They do,
and it's cool too that we can sit down and put out things like this on a large platform and go to a lot of people. Hey, being 30, you should be in your prime technically and hormonally.
Well, as a sprinter you are.
Yeah, bingo, man. 100%. Muscle maturity, power output, speed, agility, all of it takes time to develop. But in hormonally speaking, the reason we start seeing the wheels fall off at 30 is because people have had years and years of crappy processed food with bugger all fiber with high glycemic index. Their sleep's crappy, their hormones are out of whack. So when I started, that's why I did the brand in reverse with everyone else, because they're like everyone else goes a pre first, but it's like I think with the amount of, you mentioned cortisol, you've mentioned inflammation, you've mentioned poor blood sugar regulation, bad, inefficient metabolic function. You have to almost earn the right to have a high stim pre in my books.
Because the high stim pre is what you have to solve all the tiredness and shit you've got from all those problems. I know exactly.
It's a band-aid, man. It really, and so it's so.
And I've used it multiple times. Yeah,
it does. And look, we go through phases, but the good thing is you can recognize it as a season. Yep. You can go, look, this is a window where this is a period of time where we're going, I'm only sleeping 4 hours a night. Yep. I know that's hard to get through. Yep. I'm going to use an ergogenic aid mindfully, right? But a lot of people just go, this will fix that band-aid, right?
And I know what I'm doing right now is unhealthy. It's a phase I'm going through, but yeah, it's a crazy one to think about what people will do in regards to those pre-workouts just to solve it all.
Man, I had a massive moral issue with pre's. I had a non-stim pre, and in an industry where the easiest thing to sell, so like the sellout model for me in my head, morally I went to do the wellness part first because build the foundation with someone before people are already over-caffeinated and fried.
And it's just boring to general population. The right answers are boring, which is shit house.
And like you said, fiber's not sexy. Fiber's not marketable, right? How am I going to market sleep? Everyone sleeps, right? How do you market? But I spent 9 years trying to do it because that's the actual stuff that will actually make it work. So with, I suppose, how to, putting that together then, the big rocks for you, because you're dealing with people who are properly thrashing themselves. Big rocks for you. We're looking at stress and inflammation, sleep. How are you helping them? Let's go supplement part just for a little bit because we've said zinc, magnesium, and ashwagandha. I want to see how you use that. And then we'll also go the non-sup part because I think the audience would be, it's really great to have the owner of a sup company talking to a coach going, what's the whole picture look like? Not just,
and the one thing I love to say about supplements is supplements are Centrelink. They're muscle insurance. So it's when you can't make money that week because you were sick or it was a rain day, money's coming in because Centrelink's got your back. So for me, supplements are Centrelink. They're a safety net. If you can focus on your food and there's no rain days, you can manage not having a lot of them. Yeah. But in this day and age, you got so much stuff to manage outside of your training and your health. And as we know, it falls on the wayside, especially if you're not trying to be a professional athlete. So supplementation, I had to understand that not everyone is going to be able to nail their food.
Yeah.
But I use it as training wheels to teach them to nail their food. So, okay, this is what you need for now because if you don't get these supplements in, you're going to break down and we're going to ease you in, but you're going to break down. So you must get these in now. While we've got these in, let's find alternatives. What can we do? And in all honesty with you, Will, that sleep aids, I'm going to inject that into my veins for the rest of my life. That's the best stuff ever.
Thank you.
But can I get to the point where I can maybe, my breakfast shake, it covers what I need for those greens, but my boys still won't put rocket in a shake. So I was like, well, I have the greens. Once again, they just want the insurance.
Yeah.
So for me, how it looks now is I give my guys the bare minimum what they need supplement-wise.
Yep.
And that's why we sell direct from our store, from our facility. Just because, and this is not the guys we deal with at East Coast, they're legends, but when you go into a supplement store, they feed on the fact that they know that you are down the dumps, that's why you're there. It's either you're starting a journey or you're fed up on one. They know you're an easy sale. And the last thing I want is my athletes to go in there and buy a bunch of stuff that they don't need, and secondly, that isn't approved by Asada Wada Hester.
Yes.
So I give them the bare minimum, and it's always a protein. One like that ISO Pro's been a godsend, just because I like the collagen base in there as well. Less milky. I love the branch chains. I love what it does for the body outside of just a straight whey protein, even though I know there's whey in there, yeah?
Yes.
Yep, right. So then I'll go sleep aid, because after I gave the sleep aid out this week, I had 6 guys get on it. They've all come in smiling. I'm like, beautiful.
Awesome.
Right, sore as hell, but smiling. And that's a bonus for me as a coach, because if they're happy people, they train hard. Then I dabble with creatine monohydrate, just because of, depending on the type of season, just because of the fluid retention involved and the stress it puts on ligaments and tendons if they're doing explosive work. But if they can learn to ease it in the right way without creating any inflammation, any water retention, I like it for my power athletes. And then the last one I definitely will be throwing in for my guys, it's their greens. They're the bare minimums.
Yeah, because they fit around what you're trying to preach.
That's it.
It fits in it supplements what you're preaching right there. So you're looking at like greens. So you're saying, I want you to be getting X, Y, Z micronutrients and fibers and things from the food. But again, we're realists as well.
Yep.
So we're going to plug in greens to fill those in. Cool. Sleep and stress management, because you're thrashing those guys. And a lot of those PM workouts, it's really crucial to try and bomb adrenal stuff post-workout when you're training in the afternoon. Look, a big cortisol spike at 5 p.m. is disastrous for
it's got a half-life 4 hours, isn't it? So you've been a strife trying to go to bed before 9. Yeah.
Big, especially if like a lot of people with a physical job get there, fair enough, you're buggered. Pre-workout, boom, caffeine and training, sleep goes to shit. So sleep, greens, protein, creatine, happy days, man. And look, it took a lot of our, I think, like through partnering with you guys, giving me some insight too into how those things can be. It's really awesome seeing how stuff that you're plugging in both performance and wellness stuffs, and it's really cool to see. And then finally being able to offer it in like the HASTA approved format, because that takes an arm and a leg to do from a financial perspective, time perspective. The amount of sheer testing and labs you have to go through to get that approval process has been a big journey. But getting to work with guys who are really, it's like doing a really cool science experiment with you guys. Yeah. It's like people pushing themselves to the brink. Right?
We've been sitting here waiting for years. I've been the guinea pig for stuff I know that's probably not the best option, but we've been waiting for years, because you've seen the athletes in there. They're weaponized, and I can't help them with their supplement journey because nothing was HASTA approved. And some aren't worried about that at all, and some are. But what I love as well is all these supplements that we have, I put them with food. So their protein, their creatine, their greens go in their breakfast shake. Their sleep aid obviously is the only thing that doesn't, but it's like I'm still trying to couple things with food to go, look, here's an option.
Good.
Here's an option. I ran out of protein this morning. Sweet, chuck an extra banana, 10 almonds in. You'll cover it. And actually, you know what? I can't afford protein this week.
Yeah.
So that's the option. So for me, the one thing I do to assist my athletes is I put it with food. I make them consume it with food to understand it. But once again, it's just at the point now where their lifestyle and what they do on the weekends and a few sleeps they miss here and there, they've just got to have the bare minimum. And I need to make sure that it doesn't have shit fillers in it. Like if I see another supplement company that's got maltodextrin in it and no one's done the research on it, and people go and have a look at what it does to your nervous system and how it fucks you up, it makes no sense to me how this stuff can be allowed to be sold. And it also makes no sense to me as to why no one outside of yourself was caring about it.
Man, it took so much effort to put, and took so long because what someone wants versus needs, right? I've really gotten fascinated on that lately, because people want something that tastes like cordial from their supplement, that mixes perfectly, that everything dissolves in beautifully. They want it to be like drinking a glass of cordial, but they also want the benefits of, or I want them to have the benefit of, the 10, 15 herbs that I want them to use, the 20 different vitamins I want them to use. I want to try and load that with all the botanicals and herbs and nutrients, but then they want to taste like a glass of cordial and look like this, right? And so you can see why a lot of big American brands, a lot of big supplement companies can put in, and the FDA in the States, we're lucky here, Australia is heavily regulated compared to other countries, but with mine, always trying to go, how can I get just the herbs and nutrients, no gums, thickeners, no fillers, no creamers, just literally that, in as many cases as I can, stevia, throw it in a tub, done.
And as many pathways as possible.
Yes.
Not just hammering the same spot and having people just get flogged.
Yes.
Which is a big one for us. And it's
a good partnership.
For me, I've always had a bad taste in my mouth with supplements and supplement companies, because I know just the main point is like the pre-workouts that are on the shelves that last 6 months, and they know it takes 6 months to get tested, and so they're like, sweet, let's make some money for 6 months, and then we'll just change the label. And once I started to discover that all this stuff, it's close to a pinger, half the stuff in these pre-workouts, and it disappears. And I've consumed all this stuff growing up. You know, I mean, I'm sitting there going, well, I've got 10 years left, surely. But I don't want my kids, I don't want my young athletes, because they're the most marketable options, because they just think protein powder makes you jacked. They don't realise that it's just going to make you inflamed if you hammer it, and it's going to get you addicted to shit preservatives and sugars and fillers when you get the wrong stuff, and mess your nervous system up when you're mixing it with maltodextrin. So for me, yeah, you took a big risk on doing this, and it's taken a lot of money, and it's probably going to be not appreciated yet. But I believe in time, the more the serious coaches come out and explain, because you got to understand, a lot of coaches don't know shit about nutrition as well. Like, they haven't delved deep. I learned nutrition because my mum got terminal cancer twice, and she beat it with food. So for me, that's where I delved deep into the food world, because I couldn't understand how she did it. And that's what sparked my journey, even though I loved the supplement style of the heavy dairies and the heavy milks and the pre-workouts and the post-workouts and the injections, and not the steroid injections, but there was a supplement called anabolic injections. So it was like all about these things with the anabolic window and sugars and everything. And it's like, I loved that world, but I didn't realize the damage it was doing. And then as I strolled down the study world of even plant-based, plant-based isn't for me, but I know how good it is for me when I'm injured. I'm just habitually addicted to meat. But I know that my mum beat terminal cancer with plant-based foods and fruits, and it was wild to watch. I watched it for, like, she got 3 months to live. I watched her cure this, shrink a tumour down that was too far gone and have it removed. And that's when I realised that, okay, something's going on here. And everyone goes, oh, it's great that you're promoting, as you said, healthy athletes. Well, an athlete without disease is an athlete that can run on the field, right? Yeah. So it's hand in hand. If it doesn't give you metabolic syndrome and it doesn't create illness or chronic fatigue, then it's an athlete supplement.
Man, and to tie all this, like this entire combo perfectly, if you're not well, you can't perform. Precisely. And if you can't perform, you can't get well. You need both. Yep. And I speak for too long, those two worlds haven't spoken much. Yep. You're dead right. Wellness meets performance, because if you're not well, you won't perform. Yep. And if you can't perform, you can't get well. You need them both. You need to be addressing the big rocks you're speaking about today and the performance rocks. This has been a cracker podcast, mate. Yep. Thanks for sharing that last part too, because I think that's a really, people don't always realise how deep the anchors are. That's the reason that a lot of us have gotten into an industry, and you've been doing it 20 odd years. I'm at 10 now.
It's a long time, isn't it?
It's a long time, man. If you don't love this stuff, or if there isn't a very deep reason why you're doing it, you're not going to last 10 or 20 years of burnout that business can do to you. So thanks for sharing that with my audience, mate, today, and giving us an insight into what actual athletes with a no BS answer to it. There wasn't a single plug or commercial here or anything. It was just purely, let's ask, what do people actually do in the athletic space? Yep. And yeah, man, I really appreciate you giving me some real, genuine, raw answers to it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Will.
Pleasure.
Man.